Hey, you guys are muted, just so you know.
We're muted,
And
is
now
what
we're
I
not.
meant to
Okay.
say. Other than to say, we're definitely muted.
So sorry to all the kids at home.
Welcome. So this is just a repeat of health and safety guidelines. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on them because we talk about it all the time.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a piece they put together for your clients that you can use for open houses, stuff like this, to give you guidance on COVID,
Yeah.
right? So you can add your name and contact information, phone number. You can even throw it in there for listening presentations if your clients are concerned about this situation.
I've seen a few people taking these, printing them and putting them on the door on their listings, just if you have agents coming in, because honestly, the violators I've seen have been more agents than buyers. Like agents there's a few that are being very blasé about it. So that might not be a bad idea to put that on the front door before they even come in. So, okay.
These are Utah Coal Banker numbers. So, by the way, in comparison, June over June, we are ahead. Just when you compare June to June, we are actually doing really well in comparison to June of last year.
Kind of crazy when you think
Just for the
about
month,
that, right?
not the year, just for the month.
We
Okay?
were up month to month May as
Yeah.
well, so.
An interesting note, so closed sides 100, if you go back, closed sides 465, our office is basically pulling slightly less than a quarter of the entire transaction volume for our company, so pretty cool.
You guys are
Pretty
kind of
cool.
killing it, just saying.
And also this is trailing a little bit, so the under contracts, you're gonna see both of these will be bigger numbers, and this will be a bigger number as well.
And if we check with Jamie, she's probably got 30 in the pipe that aren't even on here. So by the end of the month, we'll definitely be quite a bit higher. Do we want to give Jean a few minutes before we launch? into
Yes,
this
we'd
stuff?
love to give Gene a few minutes. Climb on aboard, Gene.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Gene with Guaranteed Rate Affinity, your in-house lender. And I won't spend a lot of time or keep you, but to go in line with what Mike was saying about being closed on the 3rd, is we're closed too, but as your service partner, all of our team is working. So the reason I think it's important that we let you know that, I'm closing a loan today that's coming from another lender that the agent could not get a hold of the other person, the loan officer, for guess how long? 4 days. She worked and worked and worked and couldn't get a hold of the loan officer. Finally called me and said, Gene, these kids have got to work with you. We're closing out loan today. So with that said, utilize our services as your in-house team. We'd love to help you and we appreciate your business. Thanks.
All right.
Yeah, and honestly, Gene is one that will answer his phone at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, so, I don't know, but maybe I won't say 10.
No.
Give you a curfew of
Let's
9:30,
talk
I
to
don't
Pam.
want
I'll answer a text message.
to. Text message first, and then the phone call, okay, all right. Moving on, all right. Okay, this is our whole metro, right?
Yeah, so this is the entire metro. We are number one in total volume for Q1 2020. So that's a pretty good number. By the way, and we've teased this a few times, that we have some very Salt Lake Sugar House centric stuff coming at you that you can use for listing presentation, social media, and we're working through it with marketing to get it finalized, but it's looking cool.
Guess
So-
what it looks, what was that?
Where's Tony?
They are probably market share units, but they're actually below us. They're gaining market share by a bit.
They
and the-
were listed all the time.
Yeah, they are. And this is actually total units, not volume, because there was another company that claimed volume. We won't mention, but yes, this is total units for Salt Lake County. So that's good. It's a lot of transactions. Yeah.
Yeah, just a heads up on this. So Listing Concierge is moving to a new and improved platform to make the process easier. So if you do have material assets that are on Listing Concierge platform and you want to maintain them and transfer them, download them, keep them, upload them to the new platform.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they gonna be doing that with all of our templates that they've already done?
The templates, I think, will transition because those usually come from Design Concierge. I will double check on that. but
Yeah,
I'm
let's
pretty sure the
check
templates-
And make sure that we don't blow that.
It's just
Yeah.
like individual listings. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that would not be good. So-
On everybody's mind is the print schedule for The View. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people ask about the print schedule for The View, but here it is, July and August combined. So they're basically doing every other month now. And so we're going to hit this month and next month. And then I think you get one more before the end of the year. But obviously they are doing the online version as well.
That's just because of COVID and they'll start it up again.
Yeah, the idea was to go back to monthly after we transition through this stuff.
But in the transition, along in the same lines is Clients for Life. So this month we are sending out, or July, we're sending out a giveaway again, kind of starting that back up. So be aware that that's going to go out first Tuesday.
Yeah, first Tuesday. They don't want to do that during COVID. They felt like that was a little inappropriate, but now they're kind of like, it's going to be an online shopping giveaway. So online gift cards or something they can do that way. So we'll see how it goes. I feel like maybe people are sort of ready for that now. They're kind of like, give us something positive to be excited about.
All the time during COVID. I could have used it.
Right? I know.
I feel like
I
it
did
was
not
there
quit
for a
shopping,
minute.
strangely enough.
I don't think anybody quit shopping. It's like every other day. My dogs know the Amazon guy. Bad.
We
Yeah.
talked about this last time, My Deals. So how many people seriously dislike the sales info sheet?
Yes.
Okay, that's going away. It's being replaced by a tile on my CB desk called My Deals. So we actually have a training on it tomorrow. And until then, just know that it's supposed to be better.
It is supposed to integrate with .loop, so once you put it all in there and you can import from your MLS like you're listing, it integrates into it just sort of, so that should make it more seamless.
Yeah, an
and less-
auto population thing, I think is
Yeah.
the.
That's the idea.
Yeah, and it's going to link directly to the MLS. So pull all the existing data in that's available
Like property
and
info, yeah.
reduce your data input time.
Yeah.
Like that.
So there you go. Okay. Oh, yeah. The July Virtual Education Expo. There's no Ed Expo this week because of the 4th of July holiday. They are going to start it up again on July 9th. And it's virtual lead generation. So like, I don't know if that, it's traditional lead generation with a virtual twist. Okay, so we're not necessarily talking social media, but something along those lines. We'll see what they give us. Awesome.
Here's your class schedule. We won't go over the detail, but if you do want it, you'll get it
Lots
a little
and
later.
lots of training for anything that you want. What's that? Oh, an announcement, I don't think we got this on here, but because we only are gonna do sales meeting live every other week now going forward, next Tuesday, Stacy Saley's gonna come here and do a class out on the patio. Because she did get clearance with her boss to do outside training, as long as it's outside. So weather permitting, but we've got umbrellas, so we'll figure something out. If I have to bring an awning, we'll get creative if we have to, but she's dying to teach an in-person class. She's only been on a computer and she's about losing her mind, so it'll be good for her. She was gonna do something very relevant to the competitive market and such, but something with pieces of like the probing class and those, because she can't teach those ones right now because they're really just live type of material. So she's gonna take pieces of that and teach that because it's stuff that it's she's not teaching and she feels like everybody's kind of missing that stuff. So it'll be along those lines. I think she's kind of improvising.
This is interesting. So today at 11 o'clock our time, there is a Real Pride virtual parade. I don't know what a virtual parade is or what it looks like, but there is one today for
Maybe.
Pride Month.
We'll go
So I'm
figure
going
that
to tune
out,
in just to see what a virtual parade looks like.
and you'll report back later.
So this is, by the way, this is a sample of latest social media piece that you can download for July 4th.
Everybody knows that house from the other social media pieces. They've just animated it. There you go.
There you go. So for those of you who aren't integrated with all our social media and logos and all that stuff, if you want to use to create your own, you need to go on MyCB Desk to BrandServe, the Tile BrandServe. It's a bit clunky, but the bottom line is you have to actually, everything in there is free, but you have to pretend like you're paying for it and check out and do all that.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's probably how they track.
It's how they track
Yeah.
what's getting
So-
used and all that kind of stuff.
So that's where you can find this, and BrandServe, by the way, has a lot of other stuff in there if you want logos and all that.
Oh,
But they
that's
put all the
awesome.
holiday stuff together, like, I was talking to Molly and she said it's all, before we could go in and download all the templates and they were all in that one space.
Mhm.
And I was trying to find them in BrandServe and she's like, you actually have to search for each of them because they're not.
Yeah,
Are they gonna?
It's a little clunky. They're still.
I don't know that I can't answer that.
I don't know. I know that they have said that BrandServe is fairly new, so they're smoothing it out as they go to see how people use it and figure out how
Yeah.
to make it make sense for how it's used.
Yeah, they have like 3 sections in there, and one of them is like current campaigns or current whatever. I think that's where you're gonna find like, that's where this will be because it's
Yeah, it was
more
really weird.
relevant.
The only holiday they had in there was like
Christmas or
Labor
something.
Day or something like that, but all the rest of them were,
You're like,
all the rest of them.
Well, some people
Like it's mixed. in
Delay
somewhere
Labor
else.
Day to extend the happiness. Come on in, watch yourself, watch yourself, watch yourself. Come on in.
We don't want anybody falling. So yeah, well, hopefully that'll, and they have been, like, he's been pretty good to post this. If you follow like CB Utah on Instagram and Facebook, he'll post these a little bit ahead of time and people tend to steal them from there. That's an idea as well, but kind of last minute.
And here's some CB National Awards you can nominate people for. 30 Under 30, Chandler Barton Spirit Award.
I've never heard of that one, but
That's
it
an
sounds.
interesting one.
Honors.
Hero of the Year.
Yeah, honors a network member who shows innovation, creativity, and perseverance despite obstacles or setbacks.
Oh, that's fun.
So that's kind of cool. If you know somebody that you feel like qualifies, nominate them. Why not, right? That's what the award is for. It's kind of cool.
Virtual Gen Blue. So be aware that that is coming, and it's in September, middle of September-ish sometime.
Same dates that I think the original Gym Blue was supposed to be. I think it was the 15th through the 18th, so it's like a 3-day. I don't know if they'll just have the same instructors as they do, but they usually bring really good instructors for Gym Blue.
They're gonna have a live feed from New York, so you can feel like you're
So we just drink for 3 days in our home.
Yes, exactly.
with the live feed.
Yeah.
With the live
It's gonna be
video.
amazing.
Slide we're there, like, oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
just-
right, yeah.
We can have a Zoom party at the end, it'll be fine.
They're gonna send incense so you can burn. It smells like the sewers in the city streets. It's gonna be great.
It'll be fine, no problem. Play a little Frank Sinatra in the background. It'll feel like the brightening.
All right.
16th and 17th.
yeah.
Got the dates wrong. Okay.
Okay. That's enough of announcements.
Okay. All right. So, okay, so we gonna, and I'm trying to think if anybody in this group was in our class that we had last week. I don't think so. So that's cool. Maybe a few people at home, but the class that we did at Sugar House Park last week, we were getting a lot of questions and people saying, we need some ideas and suggestions on how to kind of deal with these competitive offers, multiple offers, like how do I write a competitive offer? And so we went through that, but as we sat and had that discussion, we realized a lot of information and a lot of stuff that kind of everybody could use. Because I got so many emails like, can you send a recap? Can you send a recap? And then I apologized for my recap because it was literally right off the top of my head. So I felt like there was pieces that were missing. And I got a couple of pieces of clarification from legal on a few of the things that we talked about too. So we thought, we're going to revisit this a little bit and talk about it again. And nicely enough, it's mostly a new crowd. So it'll be fairly new information. So that's kind of where we're at with it.
Let's pick up with, let's start, when we started doing this, the biggest thing we realized is that all this information needs to be presented before you even begin. And you need to have a serious sit down with your buyer and have a legitimate buyer presentation. However you do that is on you, but the bottom line is education on how this works is more important than ever. It's sort of a setup, setting expectations, all those things matter now.
How many
more
of you
than
guys
ever.
do like a formal buyer presentation? Like I know people that sit down, do an office meeting. How many of you do that? Or more of you just kind of do it on the fly as you're showing houses or out and about? Is that kind of more?
I
I'm
think it
getting
depends
more.
on kind of who it is.
Depends on the buyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, some buyers want the more formal, right? And so you do. And we kind of talked about that. It's, you know, we thought of doing like the Moxie thing, but I think most people, I know that's how I did it. It was more of a, let's get out and look at some houses and we'll talk as we go. And that works really well. The point of this isn't so much to do a formal presentation, it's just to make sure that you're asking the right questions and having the right conversations. And this stuff is very specific to our market right now. Like in a year or two, maybe some of this stuff will not apply at all, but it seems to be very unique to what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Before we start, how many people feel like if you're a buyer in this market, not only is it competitive, but they're taking actual risk when they buy a house? Like legitimate risk. Okay, so if you feel like your buyers is about to, or you know your buyer is about to take legitimate thousands of dollars worth of risk just to have the opportunity to buy a house, that feels like it merits a formal conversation, right? Not one that we have maybe as we're walking through the house, as we could accomplish in the past. You know, that was pretty easy, right? Because the buying process was much simpler. But I think the strategies that we're going to talk about have legitimate risk associated with them, and we need to educate our buyers. Talk about things like waiving deadlines. Are we actually going to write a letter? Are you willing to pay more as an appraised value? The pre-qual talk, are they really prepared, right? If we have really weak buyers, is that somebody we personally want to spend time with right now? Maybe in a small segment of the market, right? Maybe in a certain geographical location, but in general, that sounds like a really risky use of our time, and maybe even a bad use of our time. Do we need to rehab this talk a lot? Do you really want to put a home under contract before you sell your own? That sounds even worse now, right? Not only from a risk standpoint, from a strategy standpoint, it sounds horrible. We set market expectations as well as the service you provide. I think this is the one that we need to talk about for our own mental health, right? I know agents who say, I don't work on Sunday and I don't answer my phone after 7, and they stick to it just so they can have a life, okay? And if you don't do this, what is the expectation of your client? All hours. There is no expectation. You do everything, right? But if you do this beforehand, I think you can mitigate some of
You guys
that.
can come in here. There's
Don't
seats over
grab
here.
them up.
Okay, that's awkward over there.
That's really awkward.
I'm teasing. All right.
What was that? Do you have a
Never
question?
mind, 'cause you're right there. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay, okay.
So let's talk about a few strategies. Waive finance and appraisal deadline. How many people have done that lately? Waive a finance and appraisal deadline. What is the risk associated with that?
Data appraisals.
Bad
Yeah,
appraisal.
Right.
But let's talk about risk in the form of earnest money. What is the risk? But do we have to? Okay. No, we don't have to. How many people can get an appraisal done in less than 2 weeks? Right? So if we order the appraisal the day we go under contract, can we squeeze an appraisal in under the due diligence deadline? Absolutely. Right? So does it really matter that we're waiving a finance and appraisal deadline? No, but it feels good to the other party, doesn't it? There's only one deadline we have to deal with.
Except a 2-week due diligence, though, that's the problem.
Well, I know, but
I'm fine.
that may be true. And these strategies aren't going to work 100% of the
They
time.
probably would if you waive your appraisal and financing a little bit
Yeah.
though, because then there's a trade-off, right? Now they're feeling
Yeah.
like there's less risk because you're going to waive one and give us a little more. You're definitely gonna find some, because there are tough ones out there for sure.
Yeah, so if you're doing this, increase your due diligence timeline. But there's also plenty of people out there who are willing to just say, listen, I'll give you $2,000 to put this under contract right now. I'll just give it to you. And if they're willing to give you $2,000, does the finance and appraisal deadline even really matter? We can just waive it all together and just be done with it, right?
So typically, how long does it take to get an appraisal back from when you order it?
Week and a half or so.
Week and a half from when they
Yeah.
order it to getting it done, to getting
Right.
it back? Okay.
Another point I'd like to bring up too is depending on how much money your client is putting down, if they're significantly invested in the property, there is a chance they could get a property inspection waiver and not have to deal with an appraisal altogether.
Okay, so maybe for some of your bigger down payment conventional products, they can ask, do they have to ask for that? Do they have to request that, or will the
No,
lender do
it's
that?
a alert through Desktop Underwriter.
Okay. All right, so there's an option.
Letter writing. I don't know how common this is, but we had a pretty lengthy discussion on Tuesday about it. there's some issues here. Just be aware of it. I don't think it's especially harmful, but
Yeah, this is probably more of an issue if you're a seller, right? Because
Yeah.
the liability falls on the seller, on who they choose if they're getting offers. So, and we talked about a little bit, there's a few agents that said, oh, I get them, I don't give them to the seller, I just hold on to them. And I talked to legal yesterday just to say, okay, what are you seeing? What are the pitfalls of this? And his recommendation was if a buyer wants to write, he says, number one, I recommend an agent never write one. And then if an agent writes something, information about a buyer when they send an offer, make sure it doesn't have any, is you're not putting any of that fair housing, any of those protected classes in there, right? Maybe it's financing and down payment and, you know, stability of their job or something. Maybe you talk about the home and the things you love about the home, but you don't focus on the buyer as much in that letter. But he said if a buyer, and this, I would have this, I have buyers that would want to write a letter, put a cute little family picture in there and want me to send it with their offer. He said, if they do that, he goes, that buyer, you know, as a buyer's agent, you kind of send it in. They're asking you to. You don't discourage them from it. He said, because the liability really falls on the seller. Then as a listing agent, if you get offers with that, right? He said, fiduciary duty says you have to present anything that you receive with the offer. So if they send you that letter, you have to give it to your seller. So how do you protect yourself with that, right? I would say the easiest way to protect yourself is, one, hopefully you're spending a good amount of time when you're having that listing agreement sit down conversation on that fair housing section. I know there's a lot of sections in that listing agreement we just kind of breeze past and sort of, well, this is what this is. That's a section, if I were you, I would spend a little more time on having a conversation with what that is. And then when you get those letters, reference back to that, have that conversation again and say, this is, you know, fair housing, well, this is why we can't discriminate who we sell the home to. So be very cautious in using these letters to make your decision. And he said the best way, and he's seen agents that have protected themselves in that situation, they were able to articulate in an email with their buyer, with their seller, why they chose the offer they did. And, you know, we chose it because the offer price was higher, the down payment was bigger, the dates were better, whatever. That way, when that person that came back and wanted to attack them for not picking them because of the letters, they were able to articulate why they had chosen the offer, and it protected the seller and the agent. So just kind of keep that in mind, and it's more of a cautionary tale for a listing agent than it would be a buyer's agent.
I had a listing agent yesterday tell me that they did not have sign together.
See,
yeah,
and that's between them and their seller, sadly. I mean, that's a fiduciary duty that they may have sort of breached, but you know, and I've heard that a lot of sellers, they don't want to bring that emotional aspect into a multiple offer situation, lots of offers, and have them make that decision or be at risk for maybe providing that. But I think you just have to take it a step further. If you're the listing agent, have the conversation, and you can very easily document. It's hard. I was saying to the attorney, I said, you know, they almost need to come out with another form. It's in our listing agreement, but something that says we had this conversation, you know, like the buyer due diligence form where they sign it and you can say, hey, we talked about all these things, and it covers you a little bit. But with the fair housing, maybe we discuss that, maybe we don't, but to be able to maybe send an email and say, hey, just to highlight, here's the things we talked about tonight. Can you reply to me, let me know that you got this, and let me know if you have any questions. And then you have some sort of tracking record as an agent that I had these conversations specifically with my clients. So
yeah,
so that's a really good way to do that.
It sounds, it may sound like we're a little paranoid, but it's very rarely that something's going to happen. But the second it does, no matter what you do or how good a job you do, they will attempt to make you look stupid. And look like a horrible agent if you don't document stuff. I mean, that's just the way it goes. So that's why we tell you this stuff.
It's just safety. So,
yeah.
And it is happening more ever since they did that little undercover study of real estate agents and fair housing. You're seeing it more. People are very much more aware of it than they used to be. Consumers didn't even really realize that that was something they had a right to. So it is becoming a little bit more, just people are more aware. So it's good for you to make your sellers more aware. So, okay.
Okay, moving on. For our clients who are doing FHA and VA, some of the things that you can consider obviously are eliminating seller required repairs and eliminate seller closing cost contributions. You know, if they're using an FHA and VA, maybe that's not even possible, but it's an option, right? It's just one of those tools that you can use to maybe compete.
Required repair. And they come back with the chipping, peeling, paint on the deck and some of these things.
Buyer's paying for it.
Then the buyer needs to go in and do it before.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
That's a negotiated thing, right? I mean, the point is you want control of the property, and you can't get control of the property unless you do those things. So once you have control of the property, people are committed at that point, and your leverage increases. If you're a buyer and you're under contract, the seller's doing something as well, right? And so both parties have a more significant interest to cooperate and get those things done than they did before you were under contract.
Well, I painted the foundation in December at -15 degrees.
Yeah, and that's what because I've had it happen both ways, where they come back and we either didn't have enough in there to cover that, or the seller's like, I'm not doing anything. And so, like you said, an agent or a buyer's going over there painting a peeling deck or exposed wood or.
Blizzard kind of.
Right, I've seen that happen as well. So I think, there's risk, like we talk about, any of these things are options and they all come with risk. And as long as, the point of all this is to have the conversation with your buyer and prepare them for, here's the things that we can, if you're an FHA buyer, understand this is part of doing an FHA loan and there's a possibility, go through that addendum. We put repairs in here, this is going to be a concern to the seller. Maybe we take that out, and if you've got some cash and you can afford to make a few repairs to the home before you purchase it in order to be able to finish, let's talk about that. Let's see if that's something you're comfortable doing. It's a conversation, and I think it's important because it helps your buyers understand there are pitfalls coming, and when it happens, they don't freak out, right? If we don't talk about it and it happens now, they're freaking out. Why didn't you tell me this? Where all these conversations, some of this stuff you may not need or it may not apply, but at least you prepared them for it.
All right. Another thing you can use is start using section 8.3I.
How many of you have ever used this section? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a good section and a lot of people don't understand it. When you use it, do you feel like you have to explain it to the listing agent?
I would have to emphasize in the email because I feel like they don't even look.
They don't, right? You can put it in there and half the time they won't even notice there's anything in there and then it loses its power. So you have to make sure, draw attention to it. This was one that we had clarified because I had a Utah UAR attorney that told me that this section only applied to financing. It didn't apply to appraisal. So even if it didn't appraise, they would still get the earnest money back. When I consulted our legal, he said, no, that is not the case. So if you put any money in that line, know that once due diligence passes, that is the seller's earnest money. Whatever's in that line, if you put all of it, some of it, whatever. So just understand that, make sure the buyers understand that. We had a couple of agents who didn't understand that, did that, and ended up losing buyer's earnest money because they hadn't explained it, didn't understand how to use that section. So I don't know, we talked about this, whether this is something, whether you just do this on your own outside of the section, because you do always have to explain it to the listing agent. Maybe it's just verbiage in an addendum that says such and such amount of money is the non-refundable after due diligence. Listing agent's not going to miss that on an addendum, but they might skip over it in this section. So that's up to you, how much you want to do, but that's an easy way to do that. And a lot of sellers are even almost asking for it, I think, expecting you to be willing to make some of your earnest money non-refundable after a certain point. So that's where, like we talked about, getting the appraisal ordered early and trying to get as much of that done in that due diligence period is pretty important. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Use the short-term leaseback agreement. This one, this is something you can use because a lot of people are putting their homes on the market after they put something under contract, right? So if you are aware of that, just include it with your offer and be generic as possible with the short-term leaseback agreement. Basically, you're giving them the signal that, hey, you have plenty of time, you have plenty of freedom with us, but lead with it.
Well, and some of this too, understand, I think a lot of people don't understand in this section where it talks about, most people just check upon recording and move on, right? If you do that at days after recording, if you've ever read that section after it, it talks about if there are any contracted rental agreements, those have to be on a separate addendum, right? They have to be stipulated somewhere separate, which is what this would be for. And it talks about how all of this survives closing. So that does protect your clients if they agree to this, these terms that you agree to survive after closing. So it is one of those sections. But what we're seeing a lot of people doing is they're maybe not putting their home on the market, or they're not going and finding a home yet. They're getting their home under contract. And then because the market's so aggressive, they are not confident they can get into a home in a couple of weeks, right? So they're using this to say, we want 60 days so that we can close on our current house, have that cash in our pocket, and go write a non-contingent offer and be able to get under contract a lot quicker, and they want like a full 60 days to do that. So I've seen that happen a lot lately with people, and sellers are getting smart. And if you have a listing, that's a good option for them. Buyers are super motivated, right? Buyers will do almost whatever they need to do to get a home, and they may just be fine to say, we'll give you 60 days. Get your house under contract, get the cash in your pocket, then go find something else. And I would highly recommend, someone was telling me they were trying to do verbiage and they were just gonna do it on their own. I was like, never, ever, ever, ever do that, right? Just use the addendums, because this covers, insurance, utilities, deposits, damages, all that kind of stuff. And like Mike said, if you present this up front and maybe you say, we're gonna let you stay there 60 days rent free, I mean, that's entirely up to your buyers how they want to structure those terms, but I would highly recommend a deposit for damages, even if you're going to not charge them for rent, because we've had a few situations where sellers weren't paying rent and just got real comfortable and casual in that house and didn't treat it very well. And 6 days later, when they moved out, the buyer walked into something that didn't look the same as when they closed on it. So that deposit might help protect that situation a little bit.
Yeah, and I would also be aware too that if both parties do agree to this, this may be the riskiest thing that your buyer will do, just because of the potential for damages and all those things after you close. Like, that can get scary. But yeah, this is something that has a lot of flexibility. I mean, think about it. If you close in the middle of the month, it's very likely they may even pay, a month and a half worth of interest, and they're not having an actual payment for that amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, it gives your buyer some flexibility to let that float for the seller.
Yep.
Okay. And this is an issue that seems to be popping up a little more often than not. Seller cancellation. What do y'all do if the seller decides that they're just not going to sell you the property?
Have you ever had that happen? You have? Yeah. Yeah. It's honestly, I think I went for years and years, never even heard of it, and then had 2 or 3 in a short period of time. It's more common. So what are your rights under this section if you're representing the buyer?
If they're going to they have to pay the buyer in the amount of the earnest money they put in.
So like the earnest money plus the same amount on top?
Yeah,
But only if the buyer
wants money.
Yeah, if the buyer wants it. Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit of a negotiation, right? You got a few different options here. And I've seen it where they gave them the earnest money back, and then they gave them maybe the appraisal and the inspection fees back. They didn't do a total on top. I've seen it go where it's, hey, it was $10,000 in earnest money, you're gonna write us another check for $10,000 on top of that. I have actually even seen where a buyer sued a seller to perform. Now, still in court, mind you, so it didn't actually close, but it is an option, and it is part of this section. They have that right to say, no, I don't want that. In that case, that earnest money goes into trust, and it just sits until the courts determine how that's going to go. And that was 2 years ago. So still
It's a hot
in court.
mess.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend it, but I mean, I think buyers need to know they have that right. Some people, that this particular buyer was mad enough, they were willing to wade it into it.
It's also something that the listing agent needs to explain to the seller if there's a significant amount of earnest money.
Mm-hmm.
If that could be a double-edged sword.
Well, right, and I'm glad that you brought up the earnest money piece, because if there's a significant amount of earnest money, that can cost the seller. From a buyer's perspective, does it make you want to increase your earnest money a little bit, right? If that seller defaults, now you've got a lot more to work with than you did if it was $1,000 earnest money, right? If you've gone,
Too, if they get somebody comes with a better offer, it better be a hell of a better offer.
right,
They're
yeah,
gonna significant earnest money that they're gonna have to refund.
right, yeah, Chuck.
I've been using that for about a year
Uh-huh.
to get my buyers to put a bigger earnest money down as the market changes.
Mm-hmm.
That, yeah, it looks good for the seller up front, but it also gives your buyer some teeth.
Right, it does, yeah, and it gives them something to feel like if the seller doesn't keep up their end of the bargain. And I think, like you said, Tracy was saying, that conversation with the seller is super important, right? I've had a few times where sellers were like, well, I don't know, maybe we'll pull the house off the market, but you don't want to sell it. I'm like, well, you're under contract now. You don't really have that option anymore. And it's so important to help them understand they really have no outs. Buyer may have a lot, they have very, very few.
But when you list it though, if you put it with a contingency, that is contingent.
There's your out, yeah,
Finding another
right.
home and closing.
Uh-huh. And I recommend that if you're in that situation, use that addendum, because now the seller has an out. They have something that protects them if they decide, I can't find a home, I can't find a replacement property. Now I'm not stuck in a contract to sell my home that I don't want to. So yeah, not very many of those.
I feel like I'm having that with almost every buyer right now, that you do need to get your house on the market, but we can use the seller's contingency to find a place. I feel like that's probably one of the most utilized ones.
It really
in this
is.
market. Even better than a lease back, because we've done lease backs where we've gotten down to the wire and they've had to move in with parents and whatever. And
Gets
I
messier.
feel like this is the same market from like 3 years ago where it was just
Mm-hmm.
madness, so
Yeah.
I would use that one.
I agree.
All
I
day.
had this conversation with the buyer/seller on the way here.
Oh, did you? So it's on the tip of everybody's mind. What'd you say, Marcia?
And say, are you finding that buyers are going for that because in my situation, it worked better for the lease back because buyers are not super excited about getting a house and
It may depend on the price
Decision
point, yeah.
Sellers finding a house or not, 'cause that's so open-ended, you know, are they gonna be super, super picky and only if the perfect house comes along, most likely that.
Right.
I think sellers
Yeah.
just hold all the cards right now.
I would
There's
agree.
been one offer in the last 2 weeks that hasn't had multiple offers, not one.
Yeah,
So well, sellers hold all the cards. They
It
can do whatever
does,
they
yeah.
want right now, so.
yeah,
Well,
it feels
I-
like sellers are in the driving seat. And I think like what Marcia's saying, maybe if you get up in higher price points or you get somewhere where you're not getting the multiple offers, then maybe the leaseback makes more sense or something in that situation. You got a couple of tools in your belt, but I'm with Joey, I think for the most part.
With that, contingent on sellers finding a house, like what typical, I mean, are you?
Just depends. Are you giving them like,
You give them a time frame, like they
Yeah.
have 2 weeks or whatever.
So
What
sep-
timeframe is the?
yeah, so I keep forgetting we have the kids at home, but yeah, so if you're looking at using the subject to seller acquiring a new residence on your listing, and I've seen where they'll do 2 weeks. I don't know if 2 weeks would be enough in this market, maybe for 30 days, but I would play that with your buyers, see their willingness, because you go 2 weeks and then maybe you get to 2 weeks and say, hey, we haven't found anything, we need another 2 weeks or whatever, and have that conversation up front. But I've used it many times as well, and it works really well if there's good communication and the agent's not completely difficult.
I think that to Joey's comment about everything's multiple offers,
Mhm.
and that's what I'm finding too. I feel like usually July is kind of a slow month.
Usually, right?
Yeah, but this
But
July
it
is
is
the new
really-
April.
Yeah.
right? It's not-
Yeah, this is the new April. We're not really in July in our market, yeah.
Up big time,
Yeah.
going into July, and that's
Yeah.
interesting.
It feels like what we normally see in April and May is what we're seeing now, because everything's pushed back a month or two because of this craziness. So, yeah, I would say that's definitely true. And I think that's why some of these things become so important, because, nobody wants to spend 4 or 5 months with a buyer, so you're trying to figure out ways to get them in, plus the frustration that they go through when they keep losing offer after offer after offer, and you're trying to mitigate that emotional roller coaster. So that one for listings is excellent, for sure. Okay.
I'd only add one little piece to this. When we talk about earnest money release, that's true, but liquidated damages is also a thing. So don't forget appraisal costs, don't forget inspection costs, or anything they've actually shelled out money in order to purchase this home. When if the seller wants to cancel, make sure you throw that stuff in there, because that could be over $1,000. We had a question from Stephanie, which is, with recent fair housing problems in New York, is there any talk at corporate about making a fair housing form?
No, and I asked the attorney about that yesterday. He said company-wide, they are not, no one's having that conversation about making a form, mostly because they're trying not to just add forms on us for everything that comes up. So have that conversation. And that's, like I said, make sure you take the time to go over that paragraph in detail. Don't just breeze over that part. But he said right now, there may be talks in other markets, but right now there's no talk to create a form that's specific to fair housing.
By the
Not
way,
yet.
is everybody aware of what she's talking about? The video, the undercover video? Okay.
Okay, good.
All right, any other questions?
I will say, and I was going to bring this up, was I was trying to pull something out of the board of directors meeting with the Salt Lake board that's relevant to share with everybody. And I will say this month, the hot topic of this month was social media. And they hit us harder with the board, but I think it bears having the discussion with you as well. There are companies, and we can have this discussion because we're all here, we're all part of Coldwell Banker, but there are companies out there that are known for discounting, right? It's a big disruptor in our market right now. And, agents need to be very, very careful, not just what they post, but what they like, because there are a few of these companies who are paying very close attention to what agents are liking and following and posting, and they're screenshotting and they're saving it, and they're building up a case to say that this market or our industry is, sort of ganging up on them in a sense. And so I would say, keep yourselves out of that. If you see a post that's knocking a discount company, or blessedly, I haven't seen anyone using names, but they'll imply or whatever, and that's just as dangerous. So I would just say, don't like it, move on, let it be. I know it's frustrating for all of us, but that's not worth getting us in trouble or you in trouble if they suddenly decide they want to create a class action lawsuit and pull in every real estate agent that's ever liked a post that was derogatory in any sense that they can interpret. So I would say that was a big source of discussion. So just be very cautious when you're on social media that you kind of just leave those things alone. Even in private groups, that isn't as private, I think, as people think it is. So anyway, little tip on that, keep you out of trouble.
I think the lesson here is just don't do anything on social media ever. It just it seems horrible. Not that I'm doing that. But
No, ever.
seems like maybe
wouldn't.
we should delete all those apps. I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe, but I don't.
Maybe I'll take that back. You should do it.
Yeah, next week he's gonna do a class on social media.
I'll do a class on
and
social
we'll
media
just
next
go
week.
right the other direction. Okay.
Wants and needs. Anybody got anything you want to talk about? Yeah.
I need a really great house.
Well, all right then.
Yeah, I've got the best family in the world, West Jordan, South Jordan, then go, 500-ish, maybe like 4 bedrooms.
Okay.
Something great.
West Jordan, South Jordan, 500-ish. Okay.
We're desperate. We saw the most beautiful home. But, multiple offers.
Multiple offers and it was gone, huh?
My problem is I don't think we'll find anything that's beautiful.
Do they have a house to sell?
But they
Usually in
do.
that price
It
point.
will sell really quickly.
I would put it on the market, get under contract and use the
Well,
subject
that's why I
to.
was having that conversation.
Yeah.
with you over
You're
here.
kind of preparing them for that, huh?
We've been prepared for that.
Good.
But they didn't get the house.
Yeah, it's wishful.
I need a more, and that, I don't know that you guys will all have it, but if you hear of one, I need a more rural property on an acre, has to have at least 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, 450-ish.
Anywhere in particular, rural or?
Like, pretty much go anywhere in the state, and we really do like Cache County. They love the Torrey area, but that's a little pricey.
Call Meadow.
Who?
Meadow?
Meadow,
He's
okay.
down there, see if she's got anything.
That's true.
I was gonna say, I
Yeah.
don't know the area is right area.
Money.
Yeah, I think Torrey's too expensive for
What they're doing,
What
Yeah,
we
you
can
might
do,
know.
but,
an acre or more.
Yeah.
Okay,
Will they build?
no.
does be something existing. Okay.
Yeah, and not a fixer.
All right, if you have, for the kids at home, I'm gonna repeat these. If you have anything rural, an acre or more, you said 500,
Around 450.
around 450. Anywhere in the state of Utah, rural, something more
Well,
rural.
maybe not eastern Utah.
All right, not eastern
sorry.
Utah, maybe not going that
Yeah,
direction, but
who's going?
everywhere else.
Eastern Utah.
Okay, all right. And we talked about, Susan had a buyer, South Jordan, West Jordan, up to 500, at least 4 bedrooms.
Can the people watching this here?
Sort of. I don't know, I think they can hear, but I don't know how well they.
They did say they're having trouble hearing y'all's comments.
Oh, I'll talk loud.
Okay, do it.
Okay, we need agents for an open house on our Crest Oak Circle in Mount Olympus, or
Olympus Cove.
Olympus Cove. It's vacant, easy to do. We'd love to have somebody there this weekend. I know it's the 4th, but people are out looking on the 4th.
Killer
They
view.
desperate. Yeah, epic views. Check it out, and we're gonna try to hold that open Saturday, Sunday, every Saturday and Sunday until it sells. So if you want in on
How
that,
much is it?
hit me or Molly up.
$889.
And where is it?
Olympus Cove.
Crest Oak Circle, right off of Brock Bay.
Yeah, I know Crest Oak.
It's a flat cul-de-sac, which is really cool. It's on the downside of the street, unobstructed, 270-degree epic views.
It's to go.
Awesome.
It's got an interesting layout. It's
the
either
challenge.
people walk in and go, everything about it's great, but I can't. Every bedroom is on the same level,
Uh-huh.
which is good.
On the
The
lower
bedroom, the level is the bottom.
Oh,
But it's still views of the valley
Yeah.
from that level. It's just
different.
downstairs.
It's 5 bedrooms on one level. So.
Then we've got a half-acre house. It's a very quiet listing. It's in Riverton. It's in that new Willow Manor subdivision. And every lot is sold, and they're building $750,000 to $1.25 million homes all around it. This was the only existing home in the entire subdivision. Our clients just are kind of doing like a soft thing. They're looking for something as well, and we couldn't do like a full-blown, get them comfortable with everything else. So we did a very soft listing. It's more of a pocket listing than anything else, but it's $700,000. It's got a theater room, half acre. It's a 2-car garage, but it was updated really nicely about 6 years ago. So, take that for what it's worth. But white kitchen cabinets, nice backsplash, great open layout. It's a 2-story, $700,000 surrounded by $1 million properties, literally, and they're all brand new. This is going to be the only older home in the entire subdivision. So you will be marrying way up on this thing. And then you got one, right?
We've got another one in the Broadway Lofts coming up. This one is a 1,200 square foot They've made it into an actual one bed, usually they're all just open. The one just sold last month, exact same footprint, not even touched as far as updated, and it sold in 4 days with multiple offers. So it will probably go fast because there's people that wanted that didn't get it, but they're happy they get the price they want, just not even listed and be done with it. So if you've got anybody looking for a really cool downtown condo that it's all the cool openness of the loft, but it's actually a functional bedroom, unlike most of those. Let me know.
And it's on the
Price
back
point?
where the windows are
Yeah, it's the floor to
massive.
ceiling windows.
Yeah, it's I think one of the coolest.
What's the
units
price
ever.
point on
It'll be somewhere between $600 and $650.
Okay,
So-
Broadway Loft.
So that is the Broadway Loft. Contact Molly and Joey for that. And also, there was somebody, Lisa Hanson, said she would be interested in an open house.
Cool.
Also-
Text me.
Yeah, text Molly, Lisa. Lisa also has a home in Holiday going to the market in August, 3-bed, 3-bath, mother-in-law suite, full kitchen, $475.
Ooh, where?
That'll fly.
Yeah, right?
Holiday.
Another one?
One more, we're actually gonna call around today to everybody, but might as well ask. We have clients looking up to 2.5 and they are ready to rock and roll and we want them desperately to rock and roll. And they've got houses to sell and everything. This is gonna be awesome. But we're not finding anything. They gotta be in Holiday. They gotta have some bedrooms. They want a little bit of acreage, but they've got money. So if you got anything coming up or got a lead on anything, let us know. We got peeps ready to rock
Have
and
to
roll.
be in Holiday.
Okay,
Well,
that's,
they gotta be in the Olympus, or in Olympus, school boundaries, or be able to get an exemption, which I think they can, but they really like Holiday. They want to be in Holiday.
so Molly and Joey have a need for the Olympus School District and Holiday up to 2.5. And I think they're
Lots of
rock and
bedrooms.
roll.
Lots of
Uh,
bedrooms.
that's-
Blended family.
Okay,
Gotcha.
I have one too, that, they can go up to 4, they'd rather stay like 2 to 3 million. Holiday, Cottonwood Heights,
Call Joey first.
They want land, they've got lots of toys, they need lots of parking for toys. Would prefer a swimming pool, they don't need a ton of bedrooms, they would rather have more space, but they really want a ramp. They don't want a big, huge, they don't need a lot of space, they just want the land and the place for the toys.
Okay, so Marcia has another one up to 4, but they would prefer to be down around the 2 or 3
Yeah.
million mark.
And you
In
want
Holiday?
tons of bedrooms.
Yeah, Joey needs lots of bedrooms, Marcia needs lots of extra space for
I need
toys.
the pool.
We need 6
And the
bedrooms.
pool.
She needs the land.
That's right, no bedroom, just pool and toys for Marcia, bedrooms for, okay, all right, I think we got that squared.
So I have one coming up. It's on Euclid in Salt Lake City. It's on the west side.
Mhm.
This is an older home. It was built, like, I'm not exactly sure. Now I'm thinking about it. It's going to need some work. They've been putting a ton of work in. It will have, it has new carpet, good paint. The kitchen was updated, I'm going to say late 80s, early 90s. Euclid is the cutest little street. It's 10th West, 1st North, and it is dead end. It has all the beautiful trees and everything. It has a 2-car garage oversized, which Salt Lake you don't get. It's gonna be dirt cheap because there is some issues, like, right now, we can't get a cement contractor in to help with the porch that we're having problems with. We have to deal with it. It's gonna be under 250, guys.
Wow,
Ooh.
under
And it has
250.
3 bedrooms. It's a cute house. They dug out the basement, so the basement area is open. There's concrete there, so good storage. But,
Cool,
yeah, it's gonna be great.
all right. Susan's got under 250, 10th West, 1st North, Salt Lake, so
It is
just
the
minutes from
nicest
downtown west
street.
side,
Beautiful.
Euclid, okay, Tracy.
I have a newer listing in Sandy at 8111 Mayo Drive. It is 5,000 square feet, 2-story home. It's in incredible condition. The guy was a mining engineer, so I've always said the best houses to buy are pilots and miner engineers. Anyway, they wanted to live there forever. They both recently passed. They put in an elevator with another addition. Elevator goes from the basement up into the master. The master has a 10 by 20 foot deck that has better views than Joey.
Wow.
Throwing it
Views
down.
of- Different section of house.
You have views from Little Cottonwood
The view
Canyon
battle.
all the way around the valley out to the West Desert Golden Lake. That's priced at $679, which is probably going to come down, but anybody who wants to do open house on that, it's vacant. Anytime they want to do it, that's great. And then we got a $200,000 price reduction on our large home on Hideout Canyon
Mm-hmm.
on the shores of Jordanelle that overlooks Deer Valley and the reservoir, obviously. It's a brand new home, never been lived in. That's 5,000 square feet, and that's down to 2.39. We're having a broker open house out there tomorrow. If anybody wants to come look at it, it's from 2 till 5. I believe.
Cool.
We're giving away a $100 gift certificate.
There you go. $100 shopping cart, online shopping cart. What was that? Did you have a question?
Did you already listed that
I
house?
can't hear you.
No, shit.
Did you already listed that house you are talking
No,
about?
I've been working with
Nobody
the
announced
seller
yours.
for 4 months now, to get it ready.
I have somebody.
And so we get close.
You announced yours? Okay.
So we were close.
Okay.
I went and talked to the carpet
I
and
think it was like my time.
dealers and things yesterday for it. My seller, it's a house she grew up in and she inherited it.
All right, I'm gonna let you guys finish this after, well, so we can stay on time. You guys chat after. Okay, cool. Did you, Chuck, had one as well? Okay.
Here's your chance to avoid the competing offers. I've got a pocket listing. He wants to go a couple of weeks to try and sell it for sale by owner, but he committed to me yesterday that if I can bring him an offer for $500,000, he'll pay us 6%. And it's what, about 2,300 square foot Rambler, East Mill Creek. He's been working on it for the last 3 months, painting and redoing hardwood floors, and it's really pretty nice. I sent Mike some pictures. I've got some pictures of him. He's curious. So if we can get 500, 5-bedroom, full bath, 3/4 bath, half bath, 2-car garage, Rambler in East Mill Creek for 500,000
Where in East Mill Creek, like just,
on Evergreen.
okay.
Okay, so
It's a good
you
location.
know, he got an appraisal because he had a ski buddy that wanted to buy it, and the appraisal came in lower than he expected. And he won't show me the appraisal, but that's okay. I've done my comps, you know. And you know what the market's like, guys. So if you've got somebody that possibility. And then the cabin I've got listed, I apologize for my attire. I had to move a snowmobile up there and we blew a tire on the trailer. So I came straight from the mountain to here. And this dropped me about 4 times trying to get here. So anyway, there was another cabin listed by one of those real estate companies whose name's way too long. And they listed 575. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's a little newer than mine. We're listed at 485, 6 bedrooms, 3 baths, 3-car garage. Yes, it's seasonal access, and that other company was
Okay.
hiding that fact. But if you got somebody that would like a cabin, they could live there year round, but they gotta be hardy enough.
Where is the cabin?
Aspen Mountain, like 10 miles above Oakland.
Weaver, right? 10 mile
Upper Weaver,
Upper
up by
Weaver.
Smith Morehouse.
Okay.
So that's a great cabin. And then I have a buyer that I've had forever. He's ready to venture out now. He needs a 1-level condo up to about 350. He kind of likes to stay in the Mill Creek area north. And he doesn't want to be where there's somebody above him or below him.
Okay.
So it's hard to find.
All
But
right.
he's a cash buyer.
Okay, cool. Anything
And let's see, Michelle Franks has a new listing at the Regent, 2-bed, 2-bath, southeast corner, unit number 906. Listing tomorrow, price dropping from $850 to $749.
The region. Wow. That's a good price drop, yeah. Raquel.
I have a little bungalow on Westminster, Lower Westminster. It'll be around 380, 390. We're doing the paint and carpet and sprucing in the next couple of weeks, so it should be by the end of July.
Cool,
It'll be
okay.
actually on Sudoku.
All right, very cool. Okay, anybody else?
I'd like to get a buyer or a seller.
I think that's a fair request.
I'll take any.
Just pass them on over. There you go.
Send them my way.
All right, awesome. Well, there you go. I think everybody jump on that bus, right? I could take a buyer or seller bus. Okay, well, thank you guys. If you need anything, let us know. We will, again, plan on next Tuesday here. We'll do 10 o'clock again, and we'll try to do it out on the patio, and Stacy's gonna bring some really good stuff for us. Plan it an hour class, and then we'll start rotating. As soon as we can get people for CE, we'll get CE in here so you guys can start filling that off. She is doing the mandatory core residential course this month, so if you need that, get on Sales Pro and sign up for that. And anything else?
Nope.
Can you do that further than 4 months now, or, when that first came out, you had to do it in You couldn't do it too far out.
The,
Before
The
you-
mandatory
before you-
CE?
oh,
No, the one that run classes.
no, so I think your classes you can take whenever. It was the fingerprinting that you had to do within a certain
But
period of
now
time.
they've waived that.
They've waived that, yeah. They weren't gonna, I would think they're gonna waive it again. They waived it to September, but it looks like we'll probably maybe get pushed back beyond that. We'll see. But yeah, the classes you can take anytime, as long as it's within your renewal period, so. Yeah. Okay, all right. Thank you guys. If you need anything, let us know. Thank you. Okay. We're so spread out.